Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I would like to introduce our speakers today from Victoria and Vancouver. We have MLA Ginny Sims, MLA for Surrey Panorama, Minister Rob Fleming, Minister of Education, Terry Allen, Vice Chair, Surrey Board of Education, and MLA Rachna Singh, MLA Surrey Green Timbers. Go ahead, MLA Ginny Sims.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. A beautiful day in Vancouver. My name is Ginny Sims, as was said, and I'm the MLA for Surrey Panorama, and I'm pleased to be your MC for today's exciting announcement. I want to first acknowledge the territory of the Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, and Squamish peoples, where I am today, and introduce our guests. From Victoria and the territory of the Lekwungen peoples, the Songhees and the Esquimalt nations, we have the Honourable Rob Fleming, Minister of Education, and with me here in Vancouver are Terry Allen, Vice Chair of the Surrey Board of Education, and my colleague in the legislature, Rachna Singh, MLA for Surrey Green Timbers. I hope there are some students, teachers and parents online watching us today, because we're all here to talk about improving schools for students in the Surrey School District. For many years, underinvestment in Surrey meant thousands of students were spending their days in portables. In fact, only one school has been opened in our school district since 2014, and while the new Salish Secondary School that opened in 2018 is an amazing place to learn, our students deserve more schools just like it. In the last 3 years, shout out to an amazing minister, Minister Fleming and our government have made investments in Surrey schools a key priority, and our students are already seeing the positive results of that, and there is more to come. I'll now pass the virtual mic over to Minister Fleming, who will tell you more.
Thank you. Go ahead, Minister Fleming.
Thank you so much, and good afternoon, everyone. I thank you for joining us from wherever you're watching today, and I want to thank MLA Ginny Sims so much for that introduction. Let me begin by acknowledging that I am on the territory of the Lekwungen people, the Songhees and Esquimalt nations, where I'm speaking to you today, and glad to be joined by my colleagues who are on the territory of the Coast Salish people for our viewers in Surrey and Vancouver. I want to begin this announcement by acknowledging two people who played an incredible role in preparing for the return to schools this week in Surrey, namely Matt Westfall, who is the president of the Surrey Teachers Association, and Marcy Campbell, who is the president of CUPE Local 728. These two employee groups have done amazing work helping teachers and support staff prepare schools for the return of more students this week. And I also want to extend my thanks, and we'll hear from him in a couple of minutes, to Terry Allen, who is the Vice Chair of the Surrey School Board, for taking time out of his busy schedule to join us today in the Lower Mainland. Terry and the Surrey Board of Education, Superintendent Jordan Tinney, Surrey teachers, support staff, and principals and vice principals have been absolute leaders during this pandemic on behalf of their students and families. They've connected and supported students remotely and in schools while we all work together to flatten the curve of COVID-19. I am really looking forward to being able to visit Surrey again in person as soon as it's possible. It's been about 3 months since I last visited Surrey, and I wish it wasn't that long. Normally when I visit Surrey, I come with good news for students and families, and while I'm talking to you today remotely, that isn't changing. There is good news coming today in this announcement, and I'm very pleased on behalf of Premier John Horgan and the Government of British Columbia to make this announcement. As we all know, and as Ginny said, Surrey has grown rapidly in the past decade, and we've been working hard to build capacity in local schools so that fewer children are spending their days and their learning careers in portables. When we do get back to normal, we want every student learning in positive, engaging learning environments no matter where they go to school. And that brings me to why I'm speaking to you today. I am very, very pleased to be able to announce an additional $57 million announcement for a brand new 655-seat elementary school in Sunnyside Heights, a 195-seat addition at White Rock Elementary, and a 190-seat addition at Morgan Elementary. With these projects now approved, there are nearly 8,700 new student seats opening in the Surrey School District between September 2018 and 2023. This is the equivalent of eliminating 350 portables throughout the Surrey School District. The new elementary school in Sunnyside Heights is expected to open in 2023, and it's going to give students a modern facility where they can learn, play, and grow. And the new additions at White Rock and Morgan Elementary Schools are on track to be ready by 2022, removing the portables at both these schools. I want to take this opportunity to again thank the Surrey Board of Education for contributing $5 million to the cost of the new school. The new Sunnyside Heights school will be built on land that the district acquired last year for $31.1 million from funds in the Ministry of Education's capital budget. That was clearly a forward-thinking investment that is paying dividends today. When students graduate from the new elementary school, they'll move on to a new Grandview Heights Secondary School that opens next year. These are just a few of the 14 new and expanded schools bringing much-needed classroom space to Surrey residents in the near future, and there are many more to come. We have worked recently with the school board to buy another 3 properties in the district in the South Newton, Darts Hill, and Redwood Heights neighborhoods that we expect to be home to even more new schools in the years ahead. We've also formally supported the board to develop business cases for another 7 expansion projects representing another 2,420 student spaces, and we're working with the board to bring those projects to fruition as soon as possible. In other words, a total of over 11,100 new spaces are in construction, design and pre-construction, and business planning in the Surrey School District today. That is a total of 25 projects, and it is enough to eliminate all the portables in Surrey today. It's a lot of work, it's a lot of investment, but we have prioritized the resources to do it, to continue improving schools for students and families, for parents and others in Surrey that have waited far, far too long to have a proper school infrastructure in the heart of their neighborhoods in a fast-growing community like Surrey. Projects like these are going to be an important part of restarting our economy in British Columbia. This will help put more British Columbians back to work, building infrastructure that will help skilled workers, subcontractors, and suppliers, and get people back to work in a safe and thoughtful way. I want to remind people that Budget 2020, which was introduced in February of this year, includes a record $2.8 billion for school capital investments, giving us the resources we need to continue our momentum in Surrey and other fast-growing BC communities. This is all to say we're making great progress toward giving Surrey students the quality learning environments they need as fast as we can. I know there are students beginning to use new classrooms at the Pacific Heights Elementary this month. It was one of my first announcements as a minister, and I couldn't be happier to see that happen. So I want to thank all of you who have joined us today to be part of this great news that builds on the momentum we have worked together in close partnership with the Surrey Board of Education and the City of Surrey, who deserves to be thanked as well. The Mayor and Council have brought unprecedented focus to the table in partnership with the Ministry and the School Board to expedite approvals and permitting, to help us be strategic and buy land in the district to build more schools in the best way possible. So thank you again.
We will now go to Vancouver to Terry Allen. Go ahead, Terry.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm pleased to join Minister Fleming, as well as MLAs Ginny Sims and Rashna Singh, for this welcome announcement this afternoon. I'm always happy to be part of a funding announcement such as this, as they are an essential piece in our district's ability to welcome and educate hundreds of new students and families who move into our school district each year. The announcement today will help address some of the exponential growth we are experiencing in many of the South Surrey and White Rock neighbourhoods. The brand new 27 classroom elementary school planned in the Sunnyside Heights area will ensure children have ample space to learn and grow and ease some of the pressure on nearby existing schools such as Pacific Heights Elementary. An additional 8 classrooms each at Morgan and White Rock Elementary will not only relieve overcrowding at nearby schools, but will also reduce the need for portables at those schools. I want to say a special thanks to staff and students and parents at Morgan, White Rock and other schools in the South Surrey, White Rock area that have been functioning over capacity. While you've managed to maintain wonderful supportive school communities, we appreciate your patience and understanding. The good news is the relief is now in sight. I'll be watching as these much needed school spaces are built and look forward to celebrating when they are open. Thank you.
Good afternoon, and thank you everyone for joining us wherever you are today. I want to first acknowledge the territory of Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, and Squamish peoples where I am today, and offer my sincere thanks to Minister Fleming, Terry Allen, and the Surrey School Board, and all of the people who have worked so hard to make these investments in students come to fruition. I came to Canada in 2001 looking for a better place to raise my family, and when I did, I chose BC and I chose Surrey. A big part of that decision was the amazing school system that we have in our community. Surrey schools have played an important role in the lives of my children and my family and so many others throughout the years. And more people see that every year with about 1,000 new students coming to Surrey each September. That's why our government is making sure we continue to build new and improved schools wherever they are needed, as fast as we can. I've spent my adult life helping people who live with substance use challenges to supporting women facing domestic violence. And I can tell you that supporting children early in life and offering a good education in a positive, inspiring, and engaging setting can change lives in the most positive way. That's what we are providing to students by building and expand schools and giving them the modern learning environments that put them in the best position to thrive. We know that years of underinvestment in Surrey schools meant thousands of students were spending their days in portables, not feeling connected to the rest of the schools. We know that we are changing that with new and expanded schools throughout our district. We are adding nearly 8,700 new student seats in a span of just 5 years. And we will continue to build on these successes and continue to support the students of Surrey as we work to give every British Columbians more opportunities to follow their passion and be successful. Thank you.
Thank you to all three speakers for your awesome words at this time. This is an exciting day for students and families in Surrey and White Rock. As a teacher in a previous career, and they say once a teacher, always a teacher, I can tell you that with new classrooms come new opportunities. And every child, no matter where they live in British Columbia, deserves to have a real classroom that is an integral part of the school community. And I can't wait to visit each of these schools in the future to see our talented, hardworking students and teachers making full use of the modern spaces they'll soon have. That brings us to the end of our announcement today. I want to thank all of you for tuning in, and before I finish, I do want to do a special shout out to Minister Fleming, because I know he congratulated and thanked both the Surrey School Board, the principals and the teachers, and the QP workers as well. But I also want to say that he has done an amazing job over the last few months, well, since he's become minister, but specifically in addressing how we move forward in a pandemic situation. So thank you, Minister Fleming, for all the amazing things you've been doing. And I agree with you, the teachers and QP support staff, principals, vice principals, everybody has done an amazing job. But that's Surrey for you. With that, I'm going to pass the mic over to the moderator for questions from the media. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a reminder to everybody on the line, please press *1 to enter the queue. You are limited to one question. If time permits, we will come back around, so you will have to re-queue up. Please also take your phones off mute. You will not be audible until I call your name. First question is from Richard Zussman, Global News.
Minister Fleming, one of the priorities here, getting kids out of portables in Surrey. I'm just looking at the 2017 NDP platform, and it says we'll replace Surrey portables with real classrooms. How many kids will still be in portables come 2021, the next scheduled election?
It depends on meeting our timelines on construction. We have, as I said, 6,400 spaces under construction right now. We've opened recently 1,700 new student spaces in Surrey. So when you look at 2018 to 2023, enough student spaces are going to open to replace 350 portables. So that's well in excess of how many portables are being used right now in Surrey for K-12 instruction. It's about 307 portables today. Look, I am thrilled that if in a couple of years we have an argument about whether we slash portables by 250 or not, I would compare our record any day to the previous government that allowed growth to spiral out of control without investing in school infrastructure, allowed the numbers of students in that district to having to study for most of their school careers in portables to spiral out of control, quite frankly. We saw the number of portables in use in Surrey schools double under the previous government. We're making very serious, sustained efforts to get the number of portables down to zero in Surrey. And this is why the partnership between the City of Surrey, the Surrey Project Office, which the Ministry of Education funds, and the Surrey Board of Education is so critical. We want to break records on how quickly we can build a school in Surrey. We have the commitment of all the players at the table, all three orders of government, to work together and play our role in expediting construction in Surrey. We're about to go out and test the market again with some new tendering and procurement with these projects announced today. We did face some cost escalation and project delays when the construction market was red hot over the last year and a half, but I'm pleased to say that the timeline management or timeline impact on projects already approved and in construction has been very minimal, thanks to the excellent management provided by the Surrey Board of Education and all the contractors involved in an unprecedented level of construction activity happening in Surrey. And I want to thank the Surrey Board of Education who released a video recently just to show how much construction activity is happening in Surrey. They flew a drone above many of the fast-growing neighborhoods in Surrey and filmed the construction sites to show that indeed there are contractors working their hardest to build the schools that have been approved, where the money is flowing from the Ministry of Education to make good on those commitments to reduce portables in Surrey.
Next question is from Marcella Bernardo, News 1130.
Thank you for taking my question, Minister. Sort of in line with what Richard has said, you didn't really answer the question about how many portables are actually going to still be in place for the upcoming school year and possibly next year. Have you calculated, is it going to be more than 300, still considering all the new spaces that you've created in the next couple of years?
We'll get those numbers for you. We did see a modest reduction in portable use in the 2018-19 school year. As I mentioned, there is a project that opened this month. We have a timeline of projects happening in the fall of 2020 as well, so there'll be additional capacity. The big year that's coming up is the September 2021 school year. We may still be in an agreement with the Greens governing this province at that time. What I want to say, though, is I would go back to what I told people originally in the fall of 2017. I was shocked to come into office as the Minister of Education, see a government that made a lot of photo ops and began to acknowledge in the late part of its dying days of its mandate in 2017, make a lot of promises, none of which were funded, none of which were proceeding, and the cupboard was quite frankly bare of projects. Now, as much as we would like to put up a school overnight or in 6 or 12 months, it can't be done. what we focused on is getting aggressive timelines there to build elementary schools, to build new high schools in Surrey, to fund expansion projects that will eliminate portables. Today's announcement, these 3 projects will reduce approximately 36 portables of capacity. That's part of the 350 portable reduction that I've outlined, and I also mentioned to you and the other members of the press gallery today, the reporters, we have an additional 2,400 seats over and above what I've outlined today that are in the business case development. So this is pretty significant progress. Surrey has never seen a renaissance of school investment like this for decades. And we're trying to do 2 things at once. Make good on the backlog of ignored, neglected projects by the previous government, as well as account for new growth that's happening in the district.
Next question comes from Lauren Collins, Surrey Now Leader.
Minister Fleming, my question's sort of in the same vein as the last 2, but looking further ahead, so 5 years down the road when most of these announcements and these additions are built, you said that this would be enough to eliminate portables in Surrey today, but what about 3 to 5 years down the road once all of these schools and additions are open? The district is growing at more than 1,000 students per year.
There's a couple of things that are in flux in Surrey. One is, as you know, international student enrollments probably going to be impacted, and we don't know the impact on immigration. There has been a lot of growth in Surrey. It's been quite consistent. We have made all of our plans and investments, $363 million to date for the projects I've outlined based on the commitment to eliminate portables and in anticipation of new growth. So between 2018 and 2023, we're talking about 8,700 new spaces available. We're planning to do even more. As I mentioned, another 2,400 projects are in business case development right now. We've purchased land to be able to build new schools on those projects that are in business case development right now. So yes, the answer is within 3 to 5 years, we could see upwards of 11,000 spaces built in Surrey. And between in the 2018 to 2023 timeline, we're looking at 8,700 new spaces. So that is a massive ability for Surrey to eliminate portables. We've already seen portable growth being managed, which is a good indication. We're seeing new projects that we announced and rushed to announce and plan as a government coming to fruition now, and we've got others that are in the construction cycle that will be opening in the September 2020 and September 2021 school years.
Lisa Usda, News 1130.
Hi, Minister. A little bit off what you're doing right now, but looking at schools, kids in school right now and going back in September, I'm wondering what processes are in place to capture the kids who, we look at domestic violence and women and families in unsafe situations. What is being done to track and capture and follow the kids who may be in unsafe environments themselves, whose parents have not sent them back to school, who are not having eyes on them right now?
Listen, that is an all-of-government responsibility. We're working with the Ministry of Children and Family Development and Social Development to maintain the well-being and safety of kids. So there are a lot of professionals who oversee the well-being of children. Schools are a critically important part of that. We have put an emphasis on vulnerable students falling behind in their learning, to be encouraged to come back to school. And, with teachers and support staff in schools now, kids returning in significant numbers, and requests for further returns happening by parents and others, guardians, we'll expect to hear some probably tragic, heartbreaking stories about hidden child abuse and neglect, unfortunately. We've seen that in other countries that have reopened their schools, where they're able to have eyes on children, if you will, to have other caregiving adults in the lives of kids who have been kept at home. And we know that there is a lot of pain out there happening in many households in terms of parents who may have lost one or both jobs, in terms of people who are struggling to make ends meet. Our government has put incredible efforts in complement to the federal efforts to help with falling incomes and to provide stability in an uncertain time. But I think it's probably correct that we could anticipate some tragic incidents where kids have unfortunately suffered during the pandemic because of the conditions of isolation that they've faced.
We have one more question, follow up from Richard Zussman. Go ahead.
Thanks for taking my question again. On an unrelated topic, Minister, you mentioned earlier this week about getting Black history included in BC's K-12 curriculum. Over the last few days, has there been any work done on this, or is there any update to provide about how soon you would like to see this happen and the tools to make it happen?
Yeah, no, thank you for that question. I have written to the BC Black Historical Awareness Association. Look forward to following up with a video conferencing or telephone call with them. They have been a consistent partner for many, many years. The Ministry of Education, they have helped write a number of curriculum modules that are widely used in schools around the history of Black pioneers and their many rich contributions to the changes and the growth of modern British Columbia around human rights, civil rights, and the business, social, and cultural development of the province. So we have a number of touch points in the curriculum now that do provide all BC kids opportunities to learn about the contribution of Black Canadians in British Columbia. But we are living at a time where when you look at what is happening in the United States, when you look at the discussions around systemic racism which exists in British Columbia and Canada, we want to work as a government with the Minister of Multiculturalism, with the Premier and others, to make sure that we are being inclusive, that we are tackling systemic racism in all its forms, and obviously the education system plays a critically important role in developing the minds of new generations of British Columbians who are transitioning into adulthood. It's a place to tackle racism, to undo the corrosiveness of prejudice that exists in our society, and that's why we've made the outreach we have to that organization. I also want to commend the BC Teachers Federation. They have been putting out a number of curriculum materials that they've developed around the issues of racism and discrimination in BC society. Those are things that are available on the BCTF Teach BC website. So this is an all of K-12 approach, and we'll probably have more to say about that in the days ahead, but I certainly look forward to having a detailed conversation with organizations that represent Black British Columbians and others.
That's all the time we have today. Thank you, everyone.